Hi, this is Christian Jones, and you're listening to the Pro Marketer podcast, where whether you are in tax compliance, tax preparation, resolution, accounting, or many of the other slices of our crazy tax and accounting industry, we're here to bring to you tools and strategies to market and build your practice like a pro. And we get to have a lot of amazing guests on this podcast. I'd encourage you, go back through, check out the archive. We've got a lot of fascinating conversations with really top-notch people in our industry. And today is no exception. Today we get Michelle Weinstein of the Abundant Accountant. And Michelle, I'm going to intro you a little more, but this is your third time with us. So welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me back. I love being here with you guys. So thank you.
We're so glad to have you. You're a wealth of information, and we've got a really fun conversation teed up for today. But Michelle, as I mentioned, is the founder of the Abundant Accountant, and she helps accountants grow their firms to 7 figures and beyond by making selling fun, which selling doesn't always feel fun, Michelle. I'm excited to hear about how we're going to make selling fun for our mutual clients today in the tax and accounting space. And she's successfully trained accountants, CPAs, EAs, bookkeepers, financial pros, how to charge higher fees and double their firm's revenue. Michelle.
Yes.
This is awesome. I'm excited.
Yeah. Well, thank you again for having me. And yeah, selling can be fun. And I think that is probably the number one thing I hear from our clients is in the beginning, Michelle, I hate sales. I'm not a good salesperson. I was never trained in it. I just want to help more clients. And I'm like, I know, but in order to help more clients and grow your firm and set aside money for retirement and go on vacations, you have to have money coming in. And that activity of money coming in and having those conversations with clients is a sales related activity. And I think a lot of firm owners, you just don't like it because you've had a bad experience, probably buying a car or someone annoying you in the mall or whatever your past experience is how that belief came about. But I had a client yesterday, Christian, tell me that, Michelle, I love sales. This is what gets me the freedom that I've always dreamt of. And she likes to go to concerts. I'm able to buy front row concert tickets to anything I want now. And I'm like, yeah, isn't sales amazing?
Yes.
So it's all about our perspective. And it took her about 6 to 9 months now we've been working together. It is possible. And every firm owner I've ever worked with has started to like the process of the sales from the time they get the lead from you. You know, if you help the firm generate leads, doing the Google ads, from the time you get the lead to the time the client pays you, that is a sales process. And it's just, most people don't have a process. We just wing it. We just say whatever we think. We're running from meeting to meeting. It's very transactional based, very price driven, just send me a proposal or quote. Here's my price. Here's what you need. And on to the next. And when we slow it down and we start working it backwards, that's when the fun can begin.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And just for our audience,
yes,
because Michelle's been on our podcast 2 other times, I just wanted to highlight today's sales. But if you have questions on how to price raise an existing client base or how to build price raising structures and strategies, I bet we'll get into a little bit of that today. But Michelle does have 2 other podcasts on this channel with us that you can go and dig into if you're curious about another angle of something maybe we don't flesh out as much today. So price raising, price strategies. Today is a little bit more on sales processes exclusively, but there are some really good conversations that have already been had and many more to come. But Michelle, before we get into sales, just for those that don't know you, how did you come to start the Abundant Accountant? Give us a little bit of your origin story.
Okay. So it started back, I probably had now 25 plus years of sales experience. And I would call a time-tested entrepreneur. And prior to this part in my career, I had a food business and I ended up landing contracts in national retailers like Costco and the Vitamin Shop. And I actually pitched my way onto the show called Shark Tank that I'm sure many people have heard before.
Yes.
So I basically have sold everything from paleo meatballs to enchiladas to multi-million-dollar homes when I also did real estate and mortgages. And what I realized is there's a formula that's just really simple. And I realized that through all of my past experiences. And it's that once you own your value and your worth, and then you share your gifts or your knowledge and your services for the firm owners here listening, you create a foundation for success that gives you lasting business relationships. And so everything that I teach and talk about now is all relationship-based selling. And I took it upon myself when I had to close my food business that I want to help mission-driven firm owners that really want to sell higher value services. So bookkeeping or tax resolution, tax planning, anything but a 1040, basically, to
Right.
their clients, and do it in a way where it's not pushy, it's not sleazy, you don't come across sounding desperate. And how do you have an empowered sales conversation with your client where you are owning your value, you're owning your worth, and you can skyrocket your top line revenue so you can save away for retirement, so you can end your career early, and also during your career, enjoy it and not feel like you're burning the candle at both ends, grinding 14, 18-hour days, giving discounts, negotiating on price, and doing all those things that you don't want to do. And before I started this out of college, I was actually an analyst at Moss Adams. And I said, after my last company closed, I want to work with really smart people. And
Yeah.
now I'm working with accounting firm owners again. So I was 4 years as an analyst there. And that's really how it started, the shorter version. So I went from financial analyst to a whole career in sales to having my own company and taking all of those lessons learned and applying the same to sell any service that a firm owner has. And I've sold plenty myself, bookkeeping services, tax plans that are ranging from 30, 40. I think I've sold a $120,000 tax plan along with a CPA and helped them out. But what I realized is that whatever I lacked in my experience, I made up in my persistence. And I think the sales part of things and having a good follow-up system in place and everything else comes from the persistence that you have.
Yes.
And that's how I am here today.
Here we are. Well, it's great to be with you, and it's a fun story. And you obviously have a lot of chops in this space, a lot to offer. And just again, by way of continuing the introduction, just a bit more. Some of you who are listening to this that are clients of TaxProMarketer are also clients of Michelle already. And just to give that as a data point here, everyone that comes to us who's been through your program is just raving about what you do, Michelle. Everyone. And I think that kind of hits at every
they all want an ROI with you. If you're
Yes.
going to spend money on ads, if someone's spending, let's just say $1,000 with you, I want to make sure that they're getting 10 plus X on that investment.
Right.
So if I always say, if I give Facebook $1, I want to make 10 back, or more. And that's really what it's about. So here at the Abundant Accountant, I'm all about making sure that not only are you getting paid your value and your worth, but you're creating a firm that's sustainable, scalable, and gives you the freedom and the life so you can not have to worry about tax season every year, and you can have consistent cash flow and increased monthly recurring cash flow, and all of these elements that I think most people just don't think about. And there's so many elements to sales, and I know we can't talk about all of them today, but we'll talk maybe about a few of them. But I also have a podcast called the Abundant Accountant Podcast. So you can go there and listen to it, and it's everything non-technical. So it's everything about sales. And Christian, you know what? You should come on that podcast with me one day really soon too. So that would be fun.
Yes. And we're going to get into, I think, a really timely topic. Our first area of discussion is going to be about if I'm a tax firm or an accounting firm, or I'm in this space and I'm coming out of tax season and I'm just like, dear God, please don't do that to me again. Or I need to change and I need to adjust. There still is the need that even if we pivot who you're going after, we'll get to that today too, who your ideal client is a big part of sales. But just the process of handling a high amount of sales call volume, keeping your head on straight and delivering. Talk to us about that. What do you recommend? What do you teach in this area?
Yeah. So the first thing I recommend is to reduce your volume. If you're focused on volume, then it's really going to be hard to focus on quality. And so that's the number one thing I think someone today should do is go and analyze your client list. Who are the ones that came to you late? Who are the ones that, it was a 911 emergency, they needed something? Who are the ones that, and just grade them or number them, like your 1 clients, your 2 clients, or your 3, or I've heard other people do like your A clients, your B. And then I would say everyone who's C, D, E, and F, they need to go. And another way to really think about it as well is if you did not increase your prices in the last year, it's another great way to weed out and reduce your volume and increase your revenue.
Right.
So I actually I got this email yesterday from a client. Okay. So I'm just going to read it to you because it's pertinent. And he goes, "What amazes me about my financials is when I sent out my price increase letter, I wanted to get rid of 120 individual tax return clients. They
Right.
forecasted they could lose 70 individual return clients and still make the same amount of revenue.
Right.
He ended up adding new clients at his higher fee. He had zero pushback from his price increase, which he did not go high enough, but that's okay. That typically happens in the beginning. And for all his business returns as well. So between the new clients, the no pushback, revenue was up 14,000 and he
Mm.
did not lose enough volume still.
Wow.
So
Wow.
he has another, and they're actually, a lot of my clients were going through this process now because it's fresh in your head.
Right.
You know what drove you crazy over this last tax season. If you think that, I can't believe this client, if you've had the thought of, I can't believe that client made that decision without consulting me prior, or why do they keep making decisions without asking me what they should do? Or why do they keep getting things to me late? How come they can't upload to a server? How come this client still wants to see me in person, not upload documents to a server and mail in their paperwork? That's a great way to reduce your volume, is to
Right.
say we're going electronic only, or putting in some parameters that you think
Right.
would be the best. So what I would do today is print out your client list, start grading them, either ones, twos, and threes, or A, Bs, and Cs. And then also put together a list of what are you going to tolerate and what are you not? And then
Right.
any of the clients that were in that wiggle area, or that you know them by first name because they drove you crazy, they got to go. And
Mm.
everybody else, it's time to really think about how you're going to increase. And you can't just increase the price. There is a strategic way in order to do that. We don't
Yeah.
have time to talk about it today, but I'll give you an opportunity that you can book a phone call with us so we can dive through that process, because it would be
Right.
like an hour phone call. But that's really what it's about. And, this firm owner, he said he anticipated he would lose a lot of clients. So he did not hire additional help for the season.
Oh
So
no.
not only did he reduce his expenses, he did get rid of some, but he
Yes.
realized he didn't need any other overhead. They were able to handle the volume, no problem. So it added to profitability, added to top line revenue, and his revenue was up year over year from the previous year, same time period, about $34,000.
Come on, baby.
Yep.
Oh, that's great.
That's total revenue.
Yeah. And that speaks to
I'm sorry, total profitability, bottom line, net income.
even better.
Yeah.
Even better.
Yeah.
Wow. Wonderful. And Michelle, that just makes me think, for someone who's starting out brand new,
Yep.
there's a temptation to go for volume
Yes.
and racing to the bottom in my
Yes.
pricing. And that's something that I think we can speak to, and like the objections that someone in that position would have to what you just said. Maybe they don't even have clients yet, but what if I start high? But then there's the other side too of,
Well, most people start low, you give a discount, you do some free work, you're like, oh, they'll pay me more in the future. It
right.
doesn't ever happen that way. And I have proof of hundreds of firm owners that I've worked with that it just doesn't happen. And then they get so frustrated, and then we talk, and then I have to undo and fix the big problem, but that's okay. But
Right.
it's so much easier to do it right out of the gate.
Yes.
And yeah, I've got a Facebook ad going of one of my clients that told me that, like, thank God I did your program before I started my firm, so I don't make all the mistakes that I've heard so many people make. And I'm like, yeah, it's really everything from knowing your ideal client or whatever, because most people don't charge enough. Most people feel like they have to take on everyone and do all the work for everybody, like you mentioned. Most people will think that they should price based on what their competition is charging. So they'll look around their area and go, oh, what are they charging? And then maybe make it a little bit lower. That's the worst idea ever.
Yeah.
A lot of people will just do the discount thing or do something for free and then think that in the future that client will pay you a premium, and it never works.
It doesn't. No, it really doesn't. And that is, again, I think it feels like a natural inclination of the human mind,
Yes.
especially starting a business, that like, that's how I'm going to get in is price. And that's not how you should think about yourself. And I know I have thoughts on this, but I want to hear from you. Okay. How much of implementing and changing things that you'd bring to a client, Michelle, or someone building their firm in a different direction, whether it's brand new or it's already in existence and you got to clean up some problems. How much of it is the space right here between your ears that has to change? Because I'm guessing
a lot.
The tactics and the numbers and the emails you send and recommend, that's the easy part. But how much of it is just the psychology and the mindset?
Yeah, it's the psychology and mindset is probably what we work on for the first 2 weeks, because that's the thing that's stopping you or has you frustrated. And I'm sure there's someone listening. You've got a firm doing 100 to 200, maybe 300,000 in revenue, and your cash flow is so horrible that you're running and leveraging the firm on credit cards that are maxed out. There's been about 4 firms in the last week, literally. I couldn't help because they didn't have anything to leverage to make an investment for me to help them. There's nothing I can do. And I don't think that someone starting out wants to have that problem, but that's what will happen if you do it wrong from the beginning. You can have a bunch of revenue. Revenue means nothing. It's your bottom line. You have to have revenue in order to have profitability. But if you have revenue and you're doing a bunch of free work and giving discounts, which is eating into that top line, now your margins are decreasing. And then if you're a volume house, now you have payroll and a bunch of other people helping you. Who knows how many mistakes are being made? Because a lot of my clients get a lot of bookkeeping cleanup projects. So that means there's a lot of bookkeepers out there doing it wrong. So then we're doing low quality work for low prices. And now you have a business that's probably going to have their doors closed. They'll have to sell it or give up that client base because they can't sustain. And that's a recipe for disaster.
Yes.
Yeah.
And just a grind. It's a grind, and it can feel so defeating that you're trapped in your own business almost. And there's ways out. There's ways out. And
there's definitely a lot of ways out. And I think the biggest way out is what I thought we could maybe talk about a little bit today, which I would call the 3 Ps. And if you remember the 3 Ps, if you don't remember anything else from today, that would probably be the best thing. And I thought we could just talk about those 3 Ps. I actually did a video on it yesterday, so it's fresh in my head. And I think that would be a good conversation. So what do you think about that?
I want to hear about the 3 Ps, Michelle.
You do? Okay. So the 3 Ps is probably the most important part of your process. And you might be thinking like, okay, what does it mean? And I would say, I'm just going to use one of my case studies, and his name is Peter. And he had an incredible skill set, which each of you has, which Christian, you just talked about. But it also, you have to understand the problem that you solve for your client. So if it's taxpayers overpaying and you're going to help them reduce that so they keep more money, or someone's in a tax resolution issue and you're going to fix it. Whatever the issue is, you have to understand the problem that you're solving for the client. And the first P is getting your pricing right. So our client Ross, he owned a bookkeeping firm. He decided to sell his house and travel with his family every 3 months to a different country. So he's 100% location independent. So he reduced his overhead, got rid of his brick and mortar. So Ross had zero confidence about his pricing. And some of you listening might also have zero confidence about your pricing, which is totally normal. And then he would justify his fees by downplaying the value of his work, which is a horrible idea, or discount, or give free work away. Basically answering a quick question, saying, oh, they'll pay me later when they engage. Anyway, we helped Ross, using the first P, go from 300 or increase fees by 300%. So he was charging $350 a month for bookkeeping, and now he's charging $1,000 a month for bookkeeping minimum. He also raised his fees to current clients and new clients by 18, or the revenue generated was over 18,000 in about just a few 8-week period. So it happened really quick. And the total revenue from the year prior, he increased by 100,000.
Come on.
Yeah, that's what it's about. Okay.
The first P, price. Looking at the price of your phone.
The first P is your pricing. So what are you going to be charging? Because if you do it like the old way, which is get as many clients as possible, answer the quick questions or do the free work, sacrifice your personal life by cranking out a lot of returns and just focusing on volume. If I just get more clients, I'm going to figure this out. My prices will just randomly come in alignment together. Or you wing your sales conversations with every client. Or this is my favorite, when someone sends a proposal or a quote and then they wait for a response and then they hear crickets, like they're not hearing anything back from people. Or you give the discounts, you negotiate your fees, or you're trying to impress the clients with all your techie knowledge and stuff. Actually, none of that matters. Or you keep grinding yourself. And I call that the cross your fingers method of coming up with your pricing and ways of marketing. And it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
Okay. So you can't do any of those. It doesn't work. And the number one thing is your pricing. The number two thing is your presentation. What are you going to say to a client? So we have to present our services in a very specific way. And when we do that, then the client will see our value and know that we're going to deliver the results they're looking for based on the problems we know they have. That's why it's so crucial to understand, well, what are the problems that a client has? And then after that, they will gladly pay you whatever you want. That's how it works.
Right.
And when firm owners typically first come to me, they think they have a lead problem, Christian. And I'm like, no, especially if they're working with you, you don't have a lead problem. What you have is a conversion problem. And that's the hard truth that I think it's really hard to hear from most people, because you have no clue how to present your services, kind of like the client you had mentioned earlier before we started the podcast. And when we don't have a clue, we don't know how we're connecting to the client. So when I say presentation, it's what you say, it's how you connect to the client. And that's why this P is so crucial.
Yes.
So you're probably listening to the podcast to learn something, or because what you've been doing hasn't been working, and that's okay.
Right.
Because as a firm owner, it's natural to not feel like a salesperson. So I want to just put that out there. And you're probably not the best at communicating what you have to offer in a way that connects it to your prospect. Or even if you're upgrading a current client to a bigger package or higher value services, or maybe you're taking a business corporate tax client and you want to offer some tax planning strategies. There's a certain way to communicate that. And it really, to be honest, it's okay, because no one's taught you this. It just hasn't been taught. And that's why. So what I figured out is exactly how firm owners should present their services and their pricing with confidence. And that's how you're going to get the results that not only you're looking for, but your clients are looking for.
And this is so helpful, and it can sound a little pie in the sky, but I think, tell me if this is partially what you're saying, Michelle. They're not always buying your resume.
They're never buying your resume.
Your accreditation, right? They're not buying the things that we geek out about in our space that are noteworthy and commendable, but they're buying you.
Correct.
They're buying you. Would you agree with that?
100%.
Yeah.
And they're buying you, you're listening, actually. So to take it another step further, it's about your listening of them and how you're listening to the challenges they're having. It's not about the CPA, the EA, the master's in tax, none of that really matters. They don't buy the credentials.
I'm so down with this topic, Michelle. Let's keep moving. But
so the third,
let me just chime in one thing there, because from a marketing perspective, there's a dozen ways I could say that's it. Like, guys, hold on to that. That's it. Because so many websites that we actually bring on and fix, it's all me. I can do this. I can do that, versus speaking to your prospect. I know what your problems are. I'm your guide.
Correct.
Let's talk. Tell me more. It's a orientation.
It's almost if you were to go to the doctor and you were going to go to the best surgeon at the Mayo Clinic, you don't really look at his diploma and say, where did you go to school? It's not about that. It's how many lives did this doctor save and get rid of the tumors? He had no deaths, 100% cancer-free results. That's all you care about. Your clients, all they care about is the result that you will provide and deliver for them. It's no different than you going and saying to the surgeon, how many people died on your table versus how many people survived and how many people were 100% cured, because that is the end result. So hopefully that helps you connect the dots into what I'm trying to say, that typically a top surgeon probably went to a good school, but at the end of the day, I don't care. All I care about is, did he remove the tumor? If you're going to a cancer doctor, let's just say brain cancer, and how many surgeries did he do and the success rate of those surgeries? That's what you're asking.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. No, that's super helpful. And I'm actually thinking of a dozen other analogies. I'm going to withhold that.
Well, let's hear one. I want to hear one of yours.
Well, okay, here we go, Michelle. You're going to pull it out of me, aren't you? So the NFL draft just happened.
Okay.
And what's funny is with the NFL draft, like with everything, there's obviously some schools, and you could do this in education. You could do this in anything.
Top schools, right? Alabama, Auburn.
And they do attract a higher percentage of talent. But once you get to the NFL, it doesn't matter.
Nope.
Doesn't matter where you went to school and what you did there. Now it matters what you do now. And that's how you get your next contract after you're a rookie.
Correct.
You get paid in based on performance, and they might see potential in college that maybe you haven't lived up to. This analogy maybe breaks down for our purposes, but for a tax and accounting professional, it really, again, when you get geeked out about, let's say it this way, there's a disconnect between what your potential high-paying clients care about and what at times the professionals in our space feel like they care about, and trying to merge those together in a way that helps you speak the lingo that your customers are expecting. Some people are naturally more salesy. That might be easier to have that discernment.
I have never met a firm owner that was more salesy. I never met that, Christian, ever. Right. I know that everyone here listening hates the word sales, doesn't want to do sales, thinks it's pushy, sleazy. I shouldn't have to do it. But we all want to get paid more money, and I make it very natural way for you.
To make sales fun actually is a really great goal, because you're right. There's a ton of resistance in general because people didn't get into the accounting world, the bookkeeping world, the tax resolution world. They got in because of technical expertise. And yes, you want to build a business, but then sales gets in the way, right?
Yeah, but someone has to bring the business in. And once you have a system, you could bring on somebody, but you're going to have to keep an eye out them, because otherwise, I say, if you bring in a person to do your sales and to lead that, you also need to understand and deliver the process on which you want them to follow that works for your firm. Yes. Selling services, bookkeeping, tax planning, resolution, CFO services, fractional CFO, like all of them, it takes a unique conversation, and you have to master it first before you can give it to anybody else. Otherwise, it's very similar, and I'm sure you've got a good analogy, but going to Vegas and saying, hey, let me go put some money on blackjack. Why would you give up the most important role in your firm, which is bringing in the top line revenue?
Right. Oh, that's super helpful.
Because otherwise, you would just might as well take that money that you were going to pay that salesperson and go to Vegas. You need to take ownership of the most important part to keep your firm working afloat and keep scaling. Because why would you pay? I'm just making it up, but let's say they're spending $1,000 a month with you, Christian, on coming up with leads. Those leads are gold. You just paid $1,000 for however many leads you got. You need a skill set to learn how to convert that. That is the most precious, most important part of your whole firm. The getting the work done part is also important, but if you don't get the business in the door, you have nothing to get done.
Yes. Yes. So needful. Take us to the third P, Michelle. What's the third?
The third P is collecting payment first and upfront before you do any work. So never sending a proposal, never having accounts receivable. I just have a new client who just started. He has $280,000 of receivables. Oh, he's so angry, upset, mad. And it's just, hey, you know what? If you're starting a firm, that's what you don't want to do. And there is a way you can get paid in the first meeting with a client. You can get an engagement letter signed, and you're going to outline all the terms of the service. The other thing I recommend in all of your engagement letters is to include what you're not going to do, because a lot of firm owners, and I'm sure you're listening, have dealt with scope creep. Oh, client wants this, that, and they're like, oh, I thought I already paid you for that. If you have an engagement letter that states exactly what you offer in that engagement and exactly what is not included, then you can bring it up and have another sales meeting about enrolling them into a new engagement for whatever other services and things they're asking for. But not only this, Christian, this allows you to feel valued and in balance. So you don't have to feel burnt out and resent your clients, because this is where the resentment part comes in, where we hate our clients and, oh my gosh, I keep sending out proposals and no one's getting back to me and no one's paying them. And I feel like I have to chase them around. If that's you, this solves that whole problem. And it really separates also the clients who see your value and eliminates those who only want to waste your time and price shop.
Yeah.
So if someone's really serious, you'll be able to handle objections here. You'll be able to handle everything you need all in one meeting. And now once you're paid, then you can do the work. I can't tell you how many clients I've worked with, Christian, that say, Michelle, not only do I have AR, but there's so many people I've never even billed for. I don't even remember what I did for them. I did so much work for free.
Wow.
That's more missed revenue to the top line for you to get paid to do the work.
Right.
That's a bad problem. So this puts you, by getting paid first and up front before doing any work, on the path to not only more income, more freedom, but peace of mind.
Yes.
So that's the last P.
And that's
so pricing, presenting, and payments up front.
And that all of those, Michelle, to me, they're so great in terms of both strategies and obviously effectiveness of changing someone's world.
Yeah.
But I sense a lot of resistance from just my own conversations with our clients, with people in this industry, like that also can have a lot of resistance that you just have to.
Totally. I always tell everyone, Christian, everything I teach you is going to be the complete opposite of probably everything you've heard in your industry, in your business, in all these webinars you guys sit on and other things. But I get firm owners getting paid like doctor money. Right. So if that's you, then I'm your gal. I know it works. And I know that your clients will rise up to your new way of operating. It's just, you're the block. You're the roadblock.
Yes. Your own perception of what will and won't work is usually, again, maybe a lack of experience. It feels really risky, but I think I would completely echo everything Michelle has said today in terms of what happens in reality. What happens in reality is much better than what happens between your ears about all this stuff as you hit it. And that is also the place of growth, to actually step towards areas that feel scary, areas that feel even just
be scary. You should be terrified. Most people are like, Michelle, I'm so scared, but I'm excited at the same time. I'm like, perfect. That's the right place to be, because the firm owners we work with, they've eliminated 90% of the time wasting activities that they've been doing for so long. And they're like, oh my God, finally a step-by-step process that actually feels good. It's not a script. It's just you. And that's following a very simple system. But that's really the backbone of all of our clients' successes, like Peter and Ross and so many more.
Yes. And again, just to kind of vouch, if that's not already clear, we got clients from our side that just rave. This is not just Michelle tooting her own horn. Far from it. Michelle is great at what she does. She's really competent. And she has strategies that if you're just leaving the season and you either want to pivot, or God almighty, you have to pivot because you can't do that season again, or you want to build your firm in a new direction, it is worth your time to go to, I believe we're going to go theabundantcall.com. Michelle, is that where we're sending people out of this podcast?
If you want to, if you're a firm owner and you're stuck with anything we talked about today, then book a 1-hour call with us, me and my team, me or myself and someone on my team, at theabundantcall.com. We'll talk about where your firm's at. We'll talk about what's worked, what hasn't worked. We'll talk and create a plan just for you to get you to whatever goal you have, be it put away for retirement, work only Monday through Friday, maybe just work 8 hours a day instead of 14 hours a day. Whatever that is for you, we'll cover all of that. My only requirement is that you show up for the call, committed and open to change. You've got to be sick and frustrated and tired of the way you've been doing it. And if that's you, then make sure to book a call, because there is a better way and we'll customize it for you. So it is an hour commitment for you to set aside, be present, have a notepad and paper, because this conversation is the most powerful conversation that most firm owners have told me they've never had with anybody else. So yeah, come prepared. And again, it's theabundantcall.com.
We will put that in the show notes. We will also put the Abundant Accountant podcast, theabundantaccountant.com, her YouTube channel. We've got a few links, but the main one is if you want to keep this conversation going, theabundantcall.com. And I think almost everyone that's listening to this would probably be well served. And there's a few things, Michelle, we didn't hit today. We'll probably need to do another follow-up on this. We've got a website too, but if you have conversations, questions around price raising or sharpening your sales skills or some of the other things, again, Michelle has spoken with us twice before. You can look those podcasts up, get a call with her, or just keep your eyes out, because Michelle, we're on round 3 and I can already see round 4 and 5.
Okay.
So this was super helpful. We got to a lot of great things, and I hope you guys enjoyed the conversation. But Michelle, any parting thoughts for our group? Anything you want to leave them with?
No, just follow the 3 Ps. If you're not right now, that's the first thing you can implement, and make your list of your A, B, and C clients, or 1, 2, 3. Make a list of what you will tolerate and what you won't. And you can start working on eliminating the volume and getting rid of it, because that's the best way to deal with an overwhelming volume problem, is to just taper back, and you can make double, triple the amount of revenue with 1/3, 2/3 less the clients. It is possible. I've seen it happen many times, but we can discuss further at theabundantcall.com. And I can't wait to be here again on a future podcast with you, Christian. So thank you for having me.
You're so welcome, Michelle. Guys, everyone, thanks for joining us. Until next time, we'll see you later.